control. Gravity is all that I know. She's over me. She's over me. She comes with her hypnotic dance. She holds me here with only a glance. She's over me. She's over me. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Paranormal Portal Night Terrors. I almost said bedtime stories from beyond, but it's the Night Terrors now, and hope you guys had a wonderful holiday season. I know it's still going on for some, depending on what you observe, and hope it's still wonderful, but I know for me, the Christmas holiday is behind us, so hope everything went well. You had a nice time. I did an impromptu stream last night, and I gotta tell you, I was thinking, well, I should do a stream just because you guys have been a family to me as well. And it's been really wonderful getting to know several of you and having this community that we formed, which has been wonderful. But I was like, oh, I feel like taking the night off. But then I was like, what if the people that come in and listen, some of you guys maybe don't have anything going on and don't have any celebration or family close to you or whatever. And I was like, I got to spend the night with the listeners as much as possible. So I did. And I was expecting maybe 20 or 25 people, but I'm telling you, we had like over 60 people here, at around 60 all night. It was really incredible. And thank you all for that and for taking part in our holiday stream last night. It was really cool. A lot of great call-ins and people taking part and participating. It was awesome and amazing, and I really appreciated it. And so thank you all for that. And, you made my holiday extra special that way as well. So it was a give and a receive. So so I every once in a while, well, let me just say that the phone lines will be open throughout the course of the show. I got something to tell you about after the intro, but if you want to call in and be a part of the show tonight, you certainly can. 720-923-0500. Again, 720-923-0500, or it's right there. Right there, almost, my finger's almost touching the number. It's kind of in small text up there, but it is there. So if you want to call in, that is the number to do so. So anyway, great to see all of you guys coming in right now. Wonderful, wonderful, love you all bunches. But let's see. Okay, so I got to do this part first because I hope you're ready because it's time for bed. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are underway here on the Paranormal Portal on our Night Terrors episode tonight, Living with the Paranormal, and it's been a fantastic week for me. I do the holiday shows, and I try to be respectful to everybody because there are those people that walk around, oh, you got to bring Jesus back into Christmas and all that stuff. And I really respect all religions. I really do. I respect Christianity, and I respect those people that are devoted to those tenets and those observations. I respect the Buddhist faith. I respect Islam. I respect, so many others, Hinduism, et cetera, Native American observations and spirituality. I respect paganism. And I think that it's all our quest to find our way back to God, because we've kind of gotten lost. I don't believe, well, there's a whole, I have a whole theology around all of that. So I won't get into that now because that would take shows of its own to describe to you my spirituality. But let me just say that I think it's important to honor everybody's views because the reason for it is they have found something to believe, and that is a celebration, and that's a wonderful thing, whatever that is, as long as it does no harm and it makes them feel connected to the divine, then it's a beautiful thing. So I always, when I'm talking about things like yesterday, for example, happy holidays. I do say Merry Christmas, of course, because I observe Christmas, and I also find it surprising that there are those people out there that believe if I'm not, shouting out the name of Jesus and I'm not bringing up, that Jesus is the reason for the season kind of stuff, that I'm somehow blasphemous. And I find that absolutely condescending and ridiculous. Nobody knows my spirituality. It's my spirituality. I don't do my spirituality on the show here because this is not a spirituality show. It's it's a esoteric kind of show. It's a paranormal show. And, but still I get really, crappy messages from time to time. And I got one, yesterday. It came in late and I'll read it for you. I like to read you guys some of and I can appreciate the spirit that this person sent this in. I don't think they're meaning to be a jerk or condescending. Well, I think they're trying to be condescending, but I think they're doing it as a representation of their faith. And that's how powerful and important it is to them. And I can respect that. But I don't appreciate people, casting aspersions at me because they think that I'm not representing their faith correctly. And this is what the person said. It says, I have to ask, what are you celebrating, Brent? It's Christmas, Christ Mass, as in the birth of Christ. Judging by the amount of casual blasphemies you throw around, I can't believe you're celebrating his birth, the one who came to seek and to save the lost. So it must be some sort of Western commercialized idea that it's all about spending time with family and spending money on toys that your, quote, minion won't care about or probably even remember this time next year. When you do it all over again, shake my head. And I'm like, wow, are you serious? Yeah, Yule. There you go, Lewis. It is Yule as well. But this is the kind of thing I get, because I guess I should have been doing a church service last night, according to this person. And I'm not going to name the name, but I guess if you're really that interested in knowing who sent it, you can go look at the comments on last night's stream. But I don't want anybody ganging up on this person or trashing them. It's not that. But I just wrote back and was very clear about whether they knew it or not. It's not just Christmas. There are many celebrations of faith right now, and I honor all of them. And this is not a Christian-centric show. It never will be, and if that's what the person needs, this is probably not the show for them. But I just find it so odd that people are so judgmental. These, our faith should not make us into asses. It shouldn't make you into a dick. It should make you into a person who has touched the divine and embodies that divinity in your life. I don't think Jesus ran around judging people blindly. I'm not going to try to get into a theological debate with anybody because it's not important to me. I have my own beliefs, but I just find that kind of stuff so odd that people are so, I don't know, caustic in their faith. And that's when religion to me gets ugly. That's when it turns ugly, is when people use that as a measurement of value towards another person. That's not what faith is ever supposed to be about. It's supposed to be what lifts you up. But I don't know. I'm on a soapbox. That kind of stuff really bothers me on a fundamental level because somebody, by this little window of my world that you guys see, this person has cast a holistic judgment on me based upon the 1 or 2 hours a day that I bring you a show. And this show is about being entertaining. It's not about let's come to pray. It never will be. So I don't know if you agree with me or not, or if maybe I'm overacting. I don't know. Maybe I am. Maybe it's probably, I've been told by other people in the industry, look, don't read your messages, but I want to. I want to respond to people when they take time to comment and when they take the time to say something, and just to let them know that, hey, I'm watching, I'm paying attention. It's important to me. In a lot of cases, what people have to say, but messages like that are not so much. But anyway, that's the jerky message of the week so far. If I get any more, I'll let you know. But anyway, continuing on. I don't know. I hope I'm not out of line with that, but it's like, really, you have no idea who I am. You have no concept of who I am. People. I love y'all. I love even those people. But they are conundrums for sure. But I got some stories for you guys tonight, and I hope to keep you wildly entertained throughout the stories that I'm going to bring you tonight. Did a great podcast recording today with Joel from Maryland, and that should be released tomorrow. I hope you guys will check it out. It was a great discussion. He's had quite a few experiences, and really nice guy on top of it. He's just a very nice guy, and it was a lot of fun to just kick back and talk to him. So I hope you guys will check that out. That'll be released as of midnight tonight. Excuse me. Hold on, I got a cough. So anyway, welcome to everybody that's in the chat. Glad to see you guys here. I suppose I should probably balance that. Like, when I get a crappy comment, I should probably have the best comment of the week too, so it's not just focusing on those negative ones. Maybe I'll have to do that in the future. Focus on the positive comments. But it's just funny. People are bizarre. Anyway, let's see. Where am I? Who am I? What's my motivation? Let's get started here on our show tonight, ladies and gentlemen. And the first story I got to share with you, I wish this advertisement would just go to hell. It keeps coming up. It's talking about worried about fatty liver. Well, no, not until you started jamming your fatty liver ads in my face. I don't know what the hell fatty liver is, but it doesn't look fun. I don't know how I get these ads. What was the one I got? I got one time, and I have no idea, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, this computer is just for the portal. I mean, I just do portal and development for the show on this computer 90% of the time. I don't do a lot of off subject browsing for the most part. I'm pretty much focused on show stuff here, and somehow I got and I didn't even know what it was at the time, but I said it on the show, like, what the hell's Ashley Madison? What is that? Because I got this woman in a night dress on my screen, a big banner ad, and it said Ashley Madison. I'm like, what the hell is Ashley Madison? Well, I found out what Ashley Madison was, and it was like, oh, Jesus. Well, I don't know how that happened, because I'm not like surfing swinger stuff or whatever the hell that is, but it's just, I was a little surprised. Ashley Madison, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, and now I got fatty liver. I kind of prefer Ashley Madison. I'd rather look at the Ashley Madison ad than the fatty liver ad. But anyway. All right, let's go to Massachusetts for our first story tonight, having to do with Ouija board. Okay, so let's see what's going on in Massachusetts. It says, I know I haven't typed a story in a while. I didn't know that. But thanks for sharing. But it's only because nothing interesting has been happening. Well, not until 2 days ago. It was Saturday, September 27th. I was at my friend's house, and she had just recently bought a Ouija board. And we had known to be careful with such delicate things, so we tried to take good care of it. So after a while of setting up, we finally sat together, put our fingers on the little thingy, that moves around. Oh, I can't say it. I want to say something, but I can't. The little thingy that moves around. I just completely pulled a blank on what it's called. It's called a planchette, by the way. We waited a while and the thingy started actually moving. We asked it questions and it gave us answers. Who is this? And it spelled out Abigail McNulty. How old were you when you died? I was 11. How did you die? Long pause. My father killed me. Oof. After that, my friend and I looked at each other like, what the heck? We stopped talking to the ghost for a little while and came back 5 minutes later. My friend and I had a discussion about whether or not we wanted to ask her any more questions because my friend kind of flipped. So we put the Ouija board away safely. And we hope to talk to that little girl again in the near future. Hopefully she'll remember us. Until my next post, can some of you please give me some ideas on what else I should ask her? I don't think you should be asking her anything. How old are you? These people sound like kids. Well, there you have it. The Ouija board. We'll probably see another posting from this person in about 6 months talking about how everything's gone sideways. But let's see. What's next? This one's coming from Minnesota. My old stomping grounds. Let's see what's going on in Minnesota tonight. It says, this is an addition to the Whistler at its latest event in our house. It's hard when these stories, this is like a database. It's from like the early part of the 2000s. So there's stories, and obviously there's some people are submitting several stories over a period of time, as noticed in the last one, but it bothers me when they refer to the other stories like that's like we're doing a chronological read of their stories. But anyway, it is what it is. It says, this is an addition to the Whistler at its latest event in our house in Glenville, Minnesota, just a few weeks ago. I'll post more on the Whistler later. It was a Saturday when no one was home but me and the dogs, and I was working in the garage and had the radio on in there, and you cannot hear in the house. The missus was working and the kids were with their dad, and I let the dogs out with me. And it was when I had to go to the quiet house and go into the quiet house rather, and go to the bathroom where the event occurred. Nothing was on in the house at all. It was as quiet as can be. I finished in the bathroom and was walking out, which walks by my daughter's room, and she always has her door closed. Always. Well, I saw this from the corner of my eye. I was so startled when I walked by it. I heard in a deep man's voice simply, hi. It was so close and crystal clear and just put the fright right in me, and I walked swiftly out the door without checking it out. And that's how startling it was to me to hear that voice. I kept working in the garage and thought about it, and I went back in earlier to find nothing but the door closed. I knew I did not hear anything else but that voice, and the door was closed and no one was in the house. Never heard that voice again, or never heard that voice before, rather. I have to think it might be the frequent spirit we call the Whistler, just perhaps being friendly or just standing invisible to me by my daughter's door just to get a rise out of me and laugh about it. I'll have to say he got a good laugh at my expense. And I am one who is open to this kind of thing and would love to investigate, but that day, the Whistler got the best of me. Wonder when he'll visit us next. Dun, dun, dun. Hard to say. You know, I think these spirits got nothing but time. Ooh, I kind of like those shoes. I got a shoe ad now, so it's no more fatty liver. I guess they heard me. You guys ever notice that? You'll be talking about something just obscure, like, oh, I tried this new cat food with my cat, and he seems to like it. Next thing you know, you're on your computer, and suddenly you're seeing ads for this cat food. And I gotta think our computers are just listening to us. It's like crazy the amount of there's got to be they've got to be able to like tell what you're saying. I don't think that it's somebody listening, but I think there's some kind of AI or algorithm that can hear what you're saying, and it can interpret it and try to fire ads at you that have to do with that subject. It just happens way too much to just be random. There is the possibility that it's because you're thinking about that suddenly you notice it. Maybe it's always been there, but I don't think so. That seems to me to be a little bizarre. All right, the next one's coming from California, and it says, the story I'm about to share is one of my many experiences. My fiance and I shared an apartment we used to rent. For the sake of privacy and out of respect to the owners of the apartment, I won't use any real names. These experiences are retold as they happened. When my fiance William had called to let me know that he had found the perfect apartment for us, I couldn't have been happier. I was an idealistic college sophomore, about to move to a new state, transferring at a new college and excited for what the future had in store. Naturally, once I arrived in the new city, all I wanted to do was drive straight to our new home and check it in. Or break it in. I don't know what that means. Once the car pulled into our new driveway, I practically flew out of the car and to the door, and once William unlocked the door, my heart skipped a beat. It really was perfect, small, charming, and perfect for a young couple, and it had been built in the mid-20th century and been home to many people before us. In spite of this, it felt like the type of place you could really get comfortable. Well, I took a grand tour of the place, finally settling in the bedroom. William remained at the bedroom door as I got ready to take a nap and collapse on the bed. And, hey, would you mind if we slept on the sofa bed in the living room instead? William asked, much to my surprise. Sure, I answered, but why? I'm sure this bed is way more comfortable. I just don't like it as much, he answered sharply. Shrugging it off as his sometimes finicky ways, I followed him and we dozed off in the living room sofa, where he insisted we sleep for a good 4 months. In fact, we hardly ever used the bed in the bedroom. And later, William would admit the reason he did not want to sleep in the bedroom was that for some reason, every time he tried to sleep in there before, he felt an incredible weight pushed down on him. Then when he tried to get up, he'd find his arms and legs would fall asleep. This happened often and disturbed him enough that he had no desire whatsoever to use that bed. Knowing William to be in good health with perfectly fine blood circulation, I shrugged it off as a problem with the mattress, maybe, besides the sofa bed was more comfortable. And it wasn't until my own experience in the bedroom that I'd ever given the bed issue a second thought. William was watching a movie in the living room, and I had an exam early the next morning, and not wanting to demand he turn off the movie, I decided I would just sleep in the perfectly usable bedroom. Exhausted, I crawled into the bed and began to doze off, and then I felt a light pressure pressing around my neck, my collar and breasts, and I began to feel the sensation William had described as being pressed down, and my arms and legs falling asleep. It was definitely scary, simply by the quickness and obvious way the sensation manifested itself. However, I wrote it off again as a problem with the mattress. I tried to fall asleep, being incredibly tired, when all of a sudden I began to think uncharacteristically sad thoughts. The strange thing about these thoughts was that these things had never crossed my mind before. I found myself terrified of things I was never scared of before. I was nervous, anxious, jittery, for no apparent reason. I did eventually manage to fall asleep, but like William, I decided I was not entirely comfortable sleeping on that bed. Finally, the third experience regarding that bed happened to my good friend Abby. Hey, why don't you use the bedroom, Abby? Abby was spending a week with us for spring break, and I gave her the bed to sleep in. Yeah, I'm sure you did. Because we thought it allowed her to have her own space. And at this point, we were not confident there was anything wrong with the bed, so had no issue letting Abby stay there. One morning, Abby woke me up and asked, slightly confused, "Have you ever seen someone at the foot of that bed before? Like a tall man?" Well, I hadn't, but I sat up and asked her if anything else had happened in there. Well, I don't think so, but the room made me feel really sad for some reason. I feel much better in here. Hearing those words shook me. It wasn't just William and I who had experienced the feelings of despair and depression that room brought. It was with those words that I concluded there was something going on with that bedroom. However, the events were not limited to the confines of the bedroom. 3 months into living in the apartment, William had found a job, and I found myself alone in the apartment more often. Things had been relatively calm and normal, save for the experience in the bedroom, until one December day, we hired a handyman to come do some work, and he had not done a fantastic job and in some ways left the place in worse shape than before. As ridiculous as it may sound, the apartment seemed to retaliate after this. I was sitting at the computer when a heavy book nearly fell on my head, followed by another, and then some folders, and the next thing I knew, everything was just falling off the shelves. Nothing else had been shaken up like that in the apartment, so I checked the shelf for mice. No mice could have been seen, and there certainly had not been any seismic activity strong enough to send textbooks flying down at me. And this scared me, but had hoped it was just some kind of weird geological or engineering fluke. Nevertheless, that event marked the first of many strange occurrences that would happen within our apartment. During the first of the 2 years we spent in the apartment, occurrences seemed daily, but smaller scale than the monumental event that first December evening. These events seemed to manifest themselves in subtler psychological ways. For example, many people who had used our shower, William and I included, described seeing a particular image when they closed their eyes. Always described as, it's like there's this girl with dark hair standing there, and she just stands right in your face and stares. Another of these occurrences was sudden, inexplicable feelings of depression, despair, and anxiety. And this was felt nearly 2 or 3 times a week by William and I, and many house guests experienced it as well. This happened most often in the bedroom or by the computer area. Finally, William often complained of having nightmares in which he was being physically threatened by someone at knife point or being verbally abused. The quotations around nightmare are on account of the fact that this happened almost nightly, but he could have sworn he was actually awake when these occurrences happened. Perhaps they were lucid dreams, but in light of the other occurrences that were described by several house guests who have never met each other, that coincidence so perfectly with one another, as well as my own experiences, I can only assume that something strange really had happened to William while he slept. Whatever was happening had some sort of psychological power. It took about a year before the obvious ghostly things began. First noises began, usually very faint piano music could be heard very late at night, around 4 a.m. in the living room. Also, a young woman giggles and cries could be heard from time to time between 4 to 6 in the morning, sporadically. This could not have been from the neighbors, first because the sound was loud enough that the young woman, always the same one, would either have to be in the room with us or close enough to the window that she would have to be talking in through the windows, which was really unlikely, especially at such early morning hours. Items began falling much more frequently off the shelves and other surfaces also. Also, the negative energy felt in the bedroom became so strong that simply entering it made people who entered it nervous. Particularly near the closet. The closet made all of us so nervous we could hardly stand to look at it. Then I actually saw what I firmly believe are ghosts. This happened twice. The first was when I was standing outside one evening and noticed just for an instant the flash of a little girl running behind a tree and then disappear. Again, this happened in the very early morning hours, so it's unlikely that a live little girl would be out playing in the trees, especially not dressed the way the little girl I saw was dressed. Nevertheless, I could not believe what I had seen. I know I've seen it as it replays in my mind exactly as it happened. It is a memory firmly implanted in my mind as I believe I have actually seen a ghost. The second occurrence of this nature happened outside again, also in the early morning hours, 2 to 3 a.m. I was talking to William when he moved to go back inside of the apartment. Then, for a flash again, I saw a mustached man standing immediately behind where William had been standing. The man wore a 3-piece suit, He was slim, elderly, and stood there for a second. Both these figures appeared as flashes, almost exactly like when taking a picture. The image is suddenly imprinted, but if I looked again to where they had been, there was nothing there. In the end, William and I opted not to fight or resist any occurrences that happened. We had lived in the apartment 2 years, and we were moving by the end of the second year. We learned to grow used to the sudden pangs of deep, uncharacteristic emotions. The images we'd get in the shower and the sudden drop of objects, and by the time I packed up our things ready to move, I had no doubt that the place was a site for paranormal activity. Finally, the last occurrence I experienced was when I was packing the bedroom. I noticed my clothes move on the hangers exactly as though someone was brushing their hands across the garments. There were no open windows, fans, or breeze of any kind. William's last occurrence had been after I had left. He stayed to pack the last-minute things for a week or so. After I moved out, much like my first experience, William was sitting in the living room when the television kept turning on and off, items flew off the shelf, and doors would shake when we both left the apartment. We both wondered if the experiences we had were because something was happening with the apartment or if something was wrong with us mentally and emotionally. Well, I'm pleased to say that we are now living happily. No strange occurrences, visions, or uncharacteristic emotions. These all stopped immediately after we moved. Because of all these experiences, I'm fairly certain I had the great misfortune to live in a genuinely haunted house. That'll change your worldview, I think. I don't know if any. I think probably several of you out there have lived in places that have a fair amount of activity. I think it seems to, and it could be, honestly, it could be just those people. Those people were, by their very presence, could trigger that place to come alive in a way that nobody else will. There are some people that just are beacons of sorts, and it can be because they are psychically aware, or maybe unconsciously psychically aware, or it could be because they may remind the spirits of somebody that was a part of their lives when they were alive. I don't know. It's hard to know for sure, but that's pretty intense stuff. I think, throughout the whole course of that, there was never any move or effort into getting rid of it. It doesn't sound like they even tried like a church presence to come in and pray or bless the house or something to that measure. So I don't know. But again, in situations like those, I haven't said it for a long time, but I really think that this is quite problematic in having a house blessed by a person outside of your home, and that is in the case of a religious person. I believe that spiritual practices are both accentuated or hindered by the state of the person doing them. In other words, if a person is, let's say, a Catholic priest, for instance, and I'm not making fun of Catholics or picking on Catholics, it's just a matter of example. Could be any other religion, it doesn't matter. But it's a person, in this case, a Catholic priest. If that Catholic priest has been a very observant in their faith, if they've really worked at becoming more Christ-like or living in a pious way, then the activities that they will do as a priest will be so powerful and strong because of that devotion in which they've given their faith. On the other hand, there are those practitioners who are less than good people. They are horribly broken people that are practicing this faith, and they could come in and bless your house, and it would do no good, if not even make matters worse. You are completely at the mercy of the state of the person doing these rituals in your home. they are either, going to be effective or they're going to be not effective and perhaps even aggravating the situation. And that's the problem. And I think that's, why some exorcisms are very successful and some are very not successful. And I can't say that for sure. I think it also, in cases of exorcism, can have a lot to do with the actual strength of the thing you're trying to exorcise. There are some beings that are incredibly powerful, and it takes a lot to move them out or move them on. Whereas, if it's just a spiritual attachment, it's not as big a deal to exercise something like that. But, if it's truly a demonic attachment, then you get your work cut out for us, and you hope that the people coming to take care of that are very pious, living people. Because if they're not, it can really cause more problems. And it just really, I believe that the level of faith of the person is equivalent to the level of effectiveness of the ritual. But take it or leave it, just my 2 cents on it. But I think that there's really something to that. So if a broken person tries to cleanse your home, and it could be with some spiritualist, if they're a very broken person and they come in to try to cleanse your house with sage and crystals and stuff, and they have all kinds of issues, they're not going to be very effective. But there again, if the person is a very good person and practices living a good and wholesome life and living with an ethical code, then I think it will be powerful. So anyway, just my ideas, my thoughts. Take them or leave them. I hope you're not talking to me, Cha-Cha. Nobody cares. I just look up and see, nobody cares. Sorry. I know you're not talking to me. I know you wouldn't do that. It's all about timing. The moment I look at the chat, it's like, ooh, wait, that's probably not for me. All right, thanks. She said, nope, not you. Okay, good. All right, let's continue on. And this one is coming from Connecticut or Connecticut. But there again, we got all these extra letters that don't need to be there. It could be Connecticut. Let's see what's going on in Connecticut. We don't see a lot of stuff coming out of Connecticut. That's an unusual one. All right, so it says, I was visiting my boyfriend one night at his apartment. He lived in an old home, and he had the basement, he had turned the basement into a television room. And we were sitting on the couch in the basement, hanging out and talking. He had recently given me a watch, and I had it on that night. The watch had a silver band. It was made of links, and the links had to be removed one by one to size it. And then the clasp had to be reattached so it would close. It was too big on my wrist, and I hadn't gotten around to sizing it yet. And I held up my arm to show my boyfriend how big it was, and suddenly it fell off my wrist and into the couch cushions. My boyfriend picked it up and put it back on my wrist. It fit perfectly. We looked in the cushions again and found the missing link, a link that would have to have been taken off with a tiny screwdriver. I think the ghost that lived in the basement heard us talking about the watch and decided to save me some time and fix it for me. Wow. I don't know. I mean, that seems pretty incredible. It's not over just yet. It says other things happened in that house too. I was sitting in the living room one night alone. The TV was off. I was only in I was the only one home at that time. I heard the kitchen door creak open, and I got up and closed it. And when I sat down, a loud bang came from down the hall. Well, I was the only one in the house at the time. My boyfriend told me he has seen a man walking from the kitchen to the dining room, and the man did not live there with him. This house is haunted. Yeah, it sounds bizarre. Now, I got to admit, I've never heard a claim like that before. I've never heard of a claim where instantaneously a watch falls off of somebody's wrist into the couch cushions. They grab the watch, put it on, and it fits perfectly. It didn't fit before. And then they look back down there, and there's the link that was taken out instantaneously. How is that possible? I mean, I realize that all of the paranormal is in defiance of physics as we understand it. I mean, the idea that plates can move or, furniture can move or that there's voices when there's nobody present to make them, that's all it defies traditional physics as we understand it, or at least mechanics of our reality as we understand it. But when things like this happen, what's going on? Is it, I don't know, those kind of things just really cook your bacon because you try to find, I always try to find a rationale, a logic to the activity, something I can hang on to with my logical brain, and things like that I don't know what to do with. That's very bizarre. It's very cool. I mean, I don't know whether this story is true or not. I have no idea. I can only tell you again is that everything I present on the show is represented as truth. I will never bring in false stories or made up stories. If I know they're made up, they'll never make it on my show. I would never do that to you. I would never take pride in putting a show out like that. So everything I bring to the show is represented as truth. And that's the best I can do for a lot of this found material. But I don't know that this story is true. It sounds way out there to me. It sounds, I don't know. It sounds like a genie kind of thing. Like, hey, genie, my watch doesn't fit. Boom, now it fits. I don't know. Now, could it be true? Yeah, I guess it could be. I just don't understand how that could be possible, because you're talking about a fundamental rewriting of reality in just a moment, and a very profound rewriting of reality. It's not just, hey, the clock moved. That's a rewriting of reality, but to actually adapt and adjust a watch to fit perfectly in just the mere moments it took to drop it into a cushion and pick it up. How does that work? I don't know. That one really sticks in my head. It's confused me, ladies and gentlemen. I'm a bit confused. All right, I got to pull up some more stories because we burned right through those first stories in a hurry, and that's okay. I got tons more here in my pile of fun just for you guys. How much time has gone by, though? I would like to know that. Oh, I guess we only got about 15 minutes left, so I'll see how long these stories are. If they're very long, we may have to skip them. This one's okay. We can read this one from Georgia. This happened about 3 years ago. It was the weekend, and I had driven over to my friend Al's house to hang out for a bit. We lived pretty close to each other, and we were at each other's house often. Al told me that he was going to have some relatives that were going to be staying for a day or two, and that sometimes their kids would want to play in the room that was next to us. Therefore, we would have to be careful not to get high around them. Okay, it wasn't a big deal, though, because they all had to go to bed early, so it'd only be a little bit before we could go back to just being ourselves. Anyway, towards the end of the night, I was getting ready to leave his place and decided to walk upstairs to use the bathroom since there was no bathroom in his basement. Well, in order to go upstairs, you have to walk by this closet area with a furnace and this dark hallway with the study right by the stairway. I always felt a little paranoid every time I walked by this area for some reason. Well, my friend did hide in the furnace one time and tried to scare me as I walked by, but the entire hallway was just kind of creepy. Well, I went to the bathroom, did my thing, and as I walked back down to the basement to get my stuff, I passed by a young girl with long, curly brown hair and a white dress, and I didn't think anything of it, and just gave her a little smile and hurried downstairs, and I figured she was just one of the kids that was here earlier. There was about 6, and I went straight into the friend's room when I got there. The next day I called my friend up and we were chatting when suddenly I remember the girl I saw. I made a joke about how I saw a girl in the basement in the middle of the night and that she probably just wanted to come downstairs to smoke with us. My friend was like, "What girl?" I was like, didn't you have relatives and their kids over? He told me that they had all left except for his uncle, who doesn't have any children. And he told me none of the kids there would have fit the description of the girl that I saw. I thought he was just joking with me, but then he said sometimes he will see his nephew, who lives with him, toys by the stairs. Or if he cleaned up the room already, all the toys would be taken out of the toy box and spread out on the ground. I guess the little girl liked to play with his nephew's toys. I thought it was sort of cool and creepy at the same time, but this increases my paranoia even more when I'm at his house, especially when I'm trying to go upstairs. Now I just try to hold my pee as long as I can until I leave his house. Yeah, that'll change your plans. And there again, I don't know. Why is this child there? Why would the child just be there? Wonder why they aren't crossed over. All right, going to Florida now. Let's find out what's going on in Florida. This one's not too bad. I guess we can get through this one too. It says it's okay. I gotta get through the stuff. It's referring to another story again. I'm just trying to figure out how to begin it because I don't know the other story they're referring to. I guess I can just read it. Whatever. It says it's been a while since I wrote anything about activities in my home, and it seems like since the last episode with my shoes that happened on Easter meant the ghosts were saying goodbye. Well, I was a little disappointed that it all stopped, but recently there's been activity again. As you know, I've had things happen and hidden, strange sounds, my shoes moved, a voice speaking to me, and sightings. And I was eager to see what was going to happen next, but it's all been so quiet these last few months, I was afraid that our ghosts had just finally moved on. So when I got home the other night, I was excited to hear some activity had begun again. S couldn't wait to tell me of his latest encounters. One night, I work overnights. S was lying in bed. He decided to tease the dog and gently tapped his finger on the headboard to see if the dog would react. Tap, tap, tap. But the dog didn't budge. So again, tap, 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 and still nothing. S did it 2 more times, and all of a sudden there was a sound from the living room. It was like someone had dropped a ping pong ball that went bounce, bounce, bounce in a hollow tone. Well, the dog jumped up barking and carrying on and trying to get past the dog gate out into the living room. S said that the sound sent chills up his spine. He got up to investigate and couldn't find anything that would have made that sound. The next day we looked all over, including under the furniture, and we found nothing. A few nights later, he was lying in bed listening to music and got up to go get a drink of iced tea. The dog followed him as far as the hall, and then he lay down and rolled over belly up. And he does that sometimes to get our attention, that he wants his belly rubbed. Well, anyway, as S walked into the living room, he was enveloped in strong perfume. He stopped and looked all around and couldn't find the source. He went into the kitchen for his tea, and by that time he came back into the living room, and the smell was gone. Well, he and the dog went back into the bedroom and settled in. The dog likes to lie on the windowsill and look out the window, so that is where he was when S decided to call the ghost into the room. He said, "Come in here and bring that sweet smell with you." In a matter of seconds, the dog jumped up from the window, faced the door, and started to growl. Then he was back up on the windowsill, so S called out again, saying the same thing, and again the dog jumped off the sill onto the floor, faced the door, and growled. S said the same thing happened a third time, and finally S took hold of the dog, told the ghost not to be afraid of the dog and to come in, but nothing happened. It's been several days now, and it's all quiet. If more happens, I hope it does when I'm home. I contacted my ghost hunting group and invited them to come over for a mini hunt, and we're going to do it in the near future. I'll keep you posted of the results. Well, well, I guess it's good that they're comfortable with the presence. I mean, a haunting doesn't have to be a horrible thing. Hey, I got fatty liver ads again. What the hell? All right. Let's check this one out. It's from California. This one's short. It says, I haven't typed anything in a while because nothing to report. That seems like a theme tonight. Okay. But 3 days ago, I had a string of experiences. I've been seeing a lot of spirits lately. The most disturbing ones were of children staring at me, blood on their shirts, a girl with a white nightgown, and an attack in one of my reoccurring dreams. Also, I've been feeling like someone is following me. And when I get that feeling, something bad happens around me. Another thing is this bright light will appear in any object and a bloody hand will reach out and reach for me. It freaks me out horribly. That sounds a little Hollywood to me. In the dream I had, I was attacked by something, and when I awoke, I felt like I was being suffocated and felt something on top of me. It felt somewhat human. The figure was pure black, like a shadow, and when I pushed it off, it disappeared. I'm starting to freak out because I haven't seen any ghosts recently. Also, I've been hearing voices of people talking, crying, yelling, moaning, and a lot of other things too. Something is also happening occasionally. I feel like someone is grabbing my shirt, lifting it up, and then letting it go. It sometimes feels like a kid, but not always. And when I move, usually my shirt still feels like it's being pulled up. I'm not sure what to do anymore. Someone please help me. Well, that's a bit frightening. I don't know. You need to cleanse. Kick them out. They don't pay no rent. All right, let's see what this one is. This is a long one. How are we doing for time? Yeah, I can do this one. It's not that long. Let's see what's going on here. And this is Texas, ladies and gentlemen. To begin my story, I must say that I live in a downstairs 2-bedroom apartment, and we have been living here for 8 months. As soon as we moved in, my husband became friends with the neighbors in the apartments that surround ours. All the neighbors have lived here for a very long time, over many years, and they all know each other. So one night my husband was outside talking to his friends. He comes in and starts telling me that our apartment has been vacant for a very long time. And every family that did move in only lasted a month or so. And I'm thinking to myself, well, so what? Well, our neighbors say that our apartment is inhabited by a demon that manifests itself to children and women. But I've not seen anything, and the only thing that I do remember is on our second night here, the faucets in the tub turned on by themselves. Now, my husband is very much into ghost stories and movies, and I have to say that since I have known him, he has always seen and heard things. One Saturday night, the kids and I decided to go to bed early. My husband decided to stay up and watch movies by himself, and the next day he began to tell me that he kept hearing thumping on the ceiling and footsteps. Now, that's normal due to the fact that we live downstairs, so he just figured it was our neighbor, Rick, walking around and going about his business, but around 12:30 a.m., he saw the headlights of a car pulling up. Our living room window faces the parking lot, and he peeked and saw that it was Rick pulling up with his family, so who was making the noise? We have a 5-year-old son and a 2-year-old daughter that share a room next to ours. Throughout our time living here, he always says that he hears a knocking at his door, and it's weird because we don't hear the knocking. My son that says that when he hears it, he opens his eyes and says, "Who is it?" But nobody answers. And this happens all the time. So we tell him it's his dad knocking to make sure he's okay. And now my son said, "Remember, Daddy, the other night when you knocked on my door and I got scared and you started laughing?" Oh, jeez. I'm going to be honest and say that I'm a scaredy cat. And before us telling him it was his dad, he would always come into our bed in the middle of the night because he was scared. I wonder what it can be and why my daughter doesn't cry or wake up at night like he does. Can it all be in his head? There have been other little things happen to us, but I'll write more about them later. I'm just looking for answers, and I know that no one can answer them, but please let me know what you think. I'm starting to get a little freaked out now. Thanks for reading. That's not good. I mean, if granted, I know the word demon gets used way too much, and I don't think people really understand what a demon is. But if you're told by people that you've got a house, the house you're living in is believed to be inhabited by a demon, get someone over there. Get some professionals over there to take care of it. Several different approaches. A demonic infestation can lead to a possession, but it's nothing to play around with. In any case, I mean, that kind of stuff is double dangerous. I mean, it's hard enough to deal with a demon, but if there's an infestation in the home, that means that its energy has permeated the home. It's kind of really attached, and it may change and attach to a person, of course, but it's not like they just hang out in the basement corner or something. They may be a part of the whole structure. Definitely got to get that stuff out. It's nothing to toy around with. Just my 2 cents again, but yeah, that's terrifying. If I moved into a place and heard it was infested by a demon, hell yeah, I'd be making calls. I'd be having all kinds of people come over to help me deal with it for sure. You just can't play around, especially when you got little kids. That's just not fair to them. So, anyway, we have to see this chick on Paranormal Portal. What? We have to see this. What the hell what is that about? I don't understand. What are you talking about, Eddie? What chick? Not sure what's going on there. Well, if someone's being a problem, then I'm going to bother. All right. I'll trust you, my mods, you're dealing with it. But if someone's not, I guess I do. I know what? What do I know, Hetty? I don't know what you're talking about. But anyway, that's going to be the portal for tonight, ladies and gentlemen. So I hope you guys had a wonderful holiday again. Thank you all for being here. But that's all I got to give you for tonight. I will be back, of course, tomorrow, Friday night, and we're going to get into 2 hours of paranormal fun and mayhem and see what we can dig up. But hope to hear from you guys tomorrow night. I think it's just going to be me. I don't think I got anybody joining me that I can remember. So if you want to be a part of the show, remember the call-in number and call me tomorrow night, and we'll discuss whatever's on your mind. So, all right, guys, love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other. Help each other out. Find the magic in every day, and remember to laugh as much as you can. I'll be back tomorrow night, and be sure to check out our Teespring site. Again, that sale is going on until the 31st of December at midnight. We're giving you 15% off if you use the coupon code PORTAL2020. The word portal is all capital. So the link is in the description below to go to our Teespring site. It certainly helps us out a bunch and will help us create an amazing 2020. So we are absolutely looking forward to this next year and all that we're going to hopefully accomplish. So if you guys can help out with that, that's wonderful. So, all right, guys, good night. Have a wonderful night and love you all bunches. Sweet dreams.